What's up, everyone? This is In Camp Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Hepler. It is the dog days of summer. We're about halfway through. The water temperatures are in the 80s. If you're hanging trail cameras, I'm sure you've run into a couple snakes, mosquitoes that are about the size of a pigeon. Man, it's kind of gross out, but you can still have some fun. It's still time to get some velvet bucks and catch a couple fish on the water, especially if you want to have a late summer fish fry. This guest that I had on today is one of the better fishermen that I know of as far as it comes to multi-species fishermen. This guy gets it done on a lake, in the heat, in the cold, on hard water, in the ocean. This guy, you're really going to enjoy him. I do. Our guest today is Caleb Wistad. On YouTube, he's known as Hooked Up WI. He is a Wisconsinite, and man, he knows how to fish like a fiend. So you need to check out his content on YouTube because you're really going to learn a lot, especially because he really knows how to break down specific techniques, how to break down water, really how to just do everything that you can think of on the water to get some fish in your freezer, to have fun fishing, whatever kind of fishing you want to do. He knows how to do it. So you're going to really enjoy this episode. I know I have learned a lot from him via his content, but this conversation was a lot of fun. And you know what? This guy hunts too. He gets it done in the woods, and he can draw some parallels to that. So you're going to hear his opinion on that too. At the end, please subscribe, share it around. That would help me so much. If you don't, I really appreciate you just coming back for more. So glad you get to listen in on this. It's been a lot of fun doing this so far. So enjoy the show. This is In Camp Podcast. Today on In Camp Podcast, I have Mr. Caleb Wistad on with me, and you are from this great state of Wisconsin, correct?
Yes, sir. Born and raised here. Yep.
Nice. It's kind of cool talking to people that love where they were born and raised. I'm born and raised where I'm at, and it's kind of fun just being home sometimes, you know?
hmm Yeah, and Wisconsin's a cool state. I mean, we've got one of the best football teams in history. There's a lot of history
Yeah.
there with sports, and obviously the outdoors is huge here, especially in northern Wisconsin where I'm at. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody lives and breathes the outdoors here, so it's a
Yeah.
pretty cool
I
place to be.
Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody about deep hunting traditions the other day, and we kind of compared PA to like Michigan and Wisconsin because a lot of the same kind of things happen in those states. The
Yeah, I
deer
think it's
hunting
really
culture.
similar. Yep, very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah,
Yep.
and a lot of people.
Yes. I mean, most people hunt here, I would say. Definitely the majority of people in this area hunt. And Wisconsinites are kind of known for being good hunters in a lot of other states too. So when we go to hunt like North Dakota or out west in Wyoming, or you know, the the people there tend to welcome Wisconsin hunters a little more warmly than some others. So
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So you, we were just talking offline. You are a well-rounded sportsman, but you're pretty well known for your fishing. Do you travel to hunt as well?
yes, yep. I grew up hunting and fishing and
Yeah,
trapping.
get into
So
that. Get into that.
so I, I my dad was an outdoorsman since he was young. My grandfather was an outdoorsman. I never knew him on my dad's side, but I mean, he was a hardcore trout fisherman, fly fisherman, deer hunter, small game hunter. And, my dad grew up the same way as I did, just hunting and fishing for food. I mean, that was a lot of it. We ate wild game. That's all we ate. So we ate
Mm.
fish that we caught, and we ate venison that we shot during deer season, and whatever small game we got. I mean, we didn't buy beef. The only thing we might buy was pork or chicken because it was a little different, but we never bought beef. So it was semi sustenance, really. I mean, that's what we ate was wild game. So you learn to catch fish and fillet fish and cook fish, and same with wild game. I mean, I learned all that stuff super young. So, I mean, I was gutting my own deer by the time I was 13, 14, dragging my own deer home.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you know, I was filleting and cooking fish by the time I was probably maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And that was just the way we grew up. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love that because now it's, you know, probably back then people kind of foo-fooed the, "Oh, you're eating wild game and not beef," and now today people are like, "Oh, you have some deer in your freezer? Can I get some of that?" You know?
Uh-huh. It's some of the best meat out there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
healthy, it's wild, it's as good as it gets.
Well, the, 800,000 or whatever Wisconsin numbers, hunter numbers there are can't be wrong, you know?
Yep. Yep, that's for sure. And I also did trap quite a bit as a young
Yeah,
kid.
okay.
So trapping was kind of something my dad didn't do, but I wanted to get into. And so I trapped for probably most of my high school and some, middle school and high school. Lots of different species: beaver, otter, mink, raccoons, fox.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you do that for, like, for a job, or did you do it just for fun?
I mean, when I was starting out, you could make some money at it. I mean, I did
Yeah.
make a little. The furs were worth more then,
Yeah.
but it graduated into just doing it for fun because you'd still sell the fur, but it wasn't making you much. It wasn't worth it just for the money. But
Yeah.
trapping's super rewarding. I mean, it's a very you get into the animal's head, and understand. You have to understand how to lay a trap to catch an animal that's you can't see. You're not hunting it.
Right.
It's a whole different mentality, and you get to learn patterns and how animals move through an area much better, I would say, as a trapper than necessarily as a hunter, just because you have to get a foot in a trap, you know what I mean, or animal to go through a 330. It's not like you can shoot it from 40 yards or 100. You have to get exactly where that animal's going to go.
Right. I think that makes trappers have such an edge on bow hunting because they
Mhm.
understand how to get close like that.
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly all those skills work together, I would say.
Huh.
Trapping skills transfer to hunting skills transfer to fishing skills in a lot of ways, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think we're gonna draw a lot of parallels in this, and this is one thing that I love about. I'm like I said to you, I'm trying to keep this podcast very diverse, and I want to draw a lot of parallels because uh, I think growing as an outdoorsman, it's not just about the one big buck that you can name in the back 40 or whatever. It's about going out to be able to travel and do all of it, or even if you're not traveling but doing as much as you possibly can at home, just to have a to have fun, but b to really understand everything that you're doing. Because if you can build off of, well, the deer did this, maybe the bass do that, and the walleyes do this, you're going to learn a lot more if you have a wider net.
Mhm.
What
Yep.
drew you to I mean, you're very well-rounded outdoorsman. What drew you to making fishing content?
Well, it all kind of started with Instagram. So, um, I believe it or not, probably 7 or so years ago, I only had a Facebook account that I never posted on. So I was not
Uh-huh.
involved with social media or anything at all. But my wife kept bugging me to get an Instagram account.
Yeah.
She's like, "You should get Instagram. Like, you're out fishing, you take some cool pictures, you gotta have a place to post them."
Yeah.
So I finally caved and got Instagram, and I created an account and I started uploading pictures. And 7 or 8 years ago, whenever that was, 6, 7 years ago, photos were doing pretty well on Instagram still, and they had a
Yeah.
lot of reach, organic reach. And so I had some pretty cool stuff, some unique shots, and some of
Uh-huh.
that really got people's attention. And I started to grow a following on Instagram. And then I started to get brands reaching out to me asking if I could promote their stuff. And I was like, well, this is pretty cool. I think this is what I like doing this. Like, I like promoting stuff for people. I like working with companies, that
Yeah.
like my stuff and working their stuff into my photography. And that sort of morphed into Instagram, changed more to video, and I started doing a few reels and stuff like that. and people kept saying they liked it, and they're like, "Man, you should start a YouTube channel. You should start a YouTube channel." I'm like, "Yeah, right. I'm not like, there's no way. I'm not a on camera kind of guy. I've never thought of myself as someone who would be on screen ever. Like that
It's
wasn't an
weird.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the outdoor industry, but I had already written off being on screen as just that's not me.
Yeah.
And so again, a lot of good people that I know prompted me to keep, they kept pushing me, and I finally caved again, and I'm like, all right, I'll make one video and put it on YouTube, see what happens, and if people like it and they watch it, maybe I'll do another one. And that first one was a burbot fishing video up on Lake Superior ice fishing with a buddy of mine and my kid, and the
Okay.
audio was terrible. You know, I have some artistic skills, obviously with the photography. I'm a musician. I
Okay.
have a good artist's mind, so like I could do the editing came fairly natural, like to get the music worked in and kind of get a
Sure.
good flow to the video. And I'm fairly tech savvy, so that kind of I've gotten a lot better, but that wasn't too hard for me to figure out. So,
Uh-huh.
uh, it was terrible at first, obviously, but I improved quickly on that. And then it just kind of morphed into a year. I said, well, if I can get monetized in a year, I'll keep going. So I uploaded a video every week or two and got monetized within 12 months, basically on the dot. And that's just kind of where it started, I guess. Just I would never intended for this to happen where I would have this much of a platform on YouTube. It was never a goal. It just kind of happened.
I think one really great thing about the YouTube stuff that really drew me to the stuff that you do is the way you break things down. Look, we'll just use a small example. If you're talking about a slip bobber rig,
Mhm.
people are, oh, we got to throw a slip bobber rig, but you literally go through. Well, here's how to put the slip on, and here's what kind of line you want to use, and here's how you should tie your hook. And I think that's so important, especially when it comes to fishing, because there's a lot of little details that matter,
Oh,
right?
for sure. The
You know,
details are everything.
yeah, especially when you're fishing with artificial stuff, and it
Mhm.
matters for live bait too, but you know the guy where you're on the boat and the guy is hooking a Texas rig, but he doesn't thread the worm all the way to the end of the hook keeper, and it's kinda, like, bent in half when he that stuff, it might not matter depending on the mood of the fish, but sometimes it really does. So I think that's
Yeah.
one awesome part of what you do.
Yeah, thanks. And that's something I've really worked at, um, because I noticed it's missing in a lot of content. There's
Eh
just so much content out there that does not you wouldn't let me put it this way, if you didn't know how to fish a slip bobber rig,
Mhm.
most videos, by the time you're done with them, you still don't know how to tie up a actual slip bobber rig, where to fish it, how to fish it, like all the tricks and tips and all
Uh-huh.
you don't know. You saw somebody catch fish on a slip bobber rig, but you're still just as clueless as far as how to use it.
Exactly. And that tends to lead to a lot of frustration because the guys will be like, "Well, okay, I'll go out, I'll buy this rod," and they're buying like whatever cool rod is on the thing. It'll be like a medium heavy action rod that you use for catfish, and they're trying to catch crappies with it. You know what I mean? They're
Mhm,
just it's and I think that's you don't leave any details out, which is really it's important in hunting, but you can get away. There's a little bit less intricacies because you're not attaching something to something else to something else. You know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of details in hunting too, but it's very different.
Yeah,
With
exactly.
fishing, I mean, the details are the difference between success and failure almost every time.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Like, it's amazing how picky fish can be, especially
Uh-huh.
fish like walleyes, but even bass. I mean, it amazes me now having LiveScope and seeing it in real life, like in person, like seeing what's going on under the water and realizing how many fish are actually there that are not
Yeah.
biting. Like it is
Yeah.
eye opening.
Yeah. So I live on a small lake, and this year the water when I started fishing at the end of April, the water was 7 feet lower than it normally is, and the visibility was about 25 feet.
Mhm.
I don't have LiveScope and I don't have very good electronics. My wife just got me a nice fish finder for Father's Day. I got a Garmin fish finder, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, I'm excited to put it on my boat. It's first time with side imaging and stuff.
Mhm, mhm,
I'm pretty, which I've used on other friends' boats and things like that, but I'm pretty excited to use it. But just like you said, the amount of fish that you probably can see with LiveScope and learn something about fish is kind of what I saw live time, right?
mhm,
I could see, I'd pull up and there's somebody would have sunk a Christmas tree 15 feet under the water and there's 400 crappies around them. Well, I have never specifically targeted crappie, right? So I
mhm,
was watching a lot of your YouTube videos learning. I mean, I knew what baits to throw, but maybe a little bit less about application.
mhm,
But when I'm fishing for crappies here, it's let's throw a night crawler, however you're fishing for bluegills on a bobber with a night crawler or something.
sure.
And I was like, I really want to learn this. So that's one thing that drew me to your YouTube channel was, you know, you do a lot of the walleye, the crappie. I mean, that's really a Midwestern thing is it's a really, really great fishery for walleyes. But I could see a lot of walleyes under these brush piles that I hadn't seen before. I'm like, man, every time I've cast here 400 times, I've never caught a walleye, but there's like
Mhm,
10 of them down there, you know?
mhm, mhm.
So it's pretty cool to see that. And you're right. The details matter a lot.
Yeah. I mean, today we were fishing walleyes before I came on your podcast here. I took my son out, and we've got a spot where there's hundreds and maybe thousands of walleyes in this one
Okay.
area. And a week ago, a week and a half ago, you could catch them at will on a slip bobber and a leech. Like pretty much every cast, you'd cast it into the school and they would come up and eat it all day, as many as you wanted. And now, within the last few days, they have almost completely quit biting everything. So
Hmm.
even a slip bobber and a leech, you might have it put it in front of 100 walleyes before one will come up and eat it. And that's just if you were fishing that area and you didn't have live scope and you didn't know those fish were there, you would swear there's no fish there,
Right.
but they're still there.
Different
They're
pattern. Yeah.
yep. But I'm starting to catch them snap jigging. We started catching them on crawlers a little bit more now. So the pattern's switching over a little bit. And sometimes when those fish get real finicky like that and they don't want to bite a crawler or a leech or something live bait hanging in front of their face, you have to start rip jigging and snap jigging plastics really
Mhm.
fast to get a reaction bite. And then I saw that today. I was able to catch a couple doing that.
Okay.
They get a little more active in the warmer water and they want something that to chase, chase down. So it's a real interesting same fish, same location, different attitude.
Yeah. So with live scope, because this is something like I struggle with. I think that it could be used as a great tool, and it sounds to me like you're using it as one. You can learn something about fish that way. Whenever I talk about it, the concern that comes up is, you know, not is it fishing? Because yeah, it's fishing, but the concern about the next generation more like they're playing a video game versus spending the time fishing. What's your thoughts on that? Because I really want to get it from somebody who uses it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the position that, you know, any tool is a tool, just like anything else. And there's going to be people who use tools properly. For
Uh-huh.
the most part, I think that's most people.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be some that use them improperly. Same with guns, same with anything. It's not it's not the tool that's the problem. It's the people who are using it improperly. And when I say improperly, I mean people who are using it to overbag, to catch more fish than they should be. People who aren't being careful with the fish they're catching and releasing and just beating them up and knowing they're going to die anyway, and not caring. There's a lot of irresponsible ways to use technology, and it doesn't matter what technology it is. It's the same people who are going to abuse it.
Mhm.
Um, Now, the thing it's going to do, I think, is make people more efficient,
Yeah.
especially people who are already good anglers. They're going to become way more efficient. So they're going to be able to put more fish in their boat every single day. than they used to be able to because they're going to find fish faster. You always know your bait's near a fish, and it's just it's going to make people more efficient. And that's if people are trying to catch and keep as many fish as possible all the time, they're going to keep a lot more fish.
Yeah.
So that's the mentality that has to change is the always want more, keep everything you catch mentality. Since we're so efficient now with this technology and not just LiveScope, a lot of other technologies too, and all the information we have now. You don't have to spend 20 years learning everything. You can sit down on YouTube and learn everything you need to know in 30 minutes to catch fish
Right.
a certain way. So
Sure.
the learning curve is shorter, the technology is better. It's just going to come down to responsible harvest, I think, is a lot of it. There's going to be some mortality just from catch and release too, um, on some fish, but I think it's going to be negligible except for muskies. Muskies are going to suffer uh, because they're not hardy enough to be caught over and over again,
Right.
um, and they're getting caught over and over again, and especially out of deep water. They're when you bring them up from deep water where it's cold into that warmer upper layer, they really don't do well.
Right.
Nor do any fish, but especially big fish like muskies and pike. They're very hard to release, and that's one species I think that might suffer from delayed mortality a little bit more. But like panfish and bass and walleyes, you can catch and release them lots of times, and they're usually fine.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's just I'm trying to educate people on my channel to be responsible when it comes to harvest. Just take what you're going to eat for a meal, keep it fresh, don't freeze it. Don't catch a bunch of fish for all your neighbors and give it away. Just keep it, you can once in a while, it's fine. But I know people who go bluegill fish in the winter and they'd catch a limit every single day and they'd give away hundreds and hundreds of bluegills every winter. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not going to be sustainable if everybody's doing that.
Uh-huh.
Um, so just kind of those kind of things. Try and move around, fish different lakes if you can. If you're keeping a lot of fish, don't keep them all from one lake. Um, and I realize I keep a lot of fish. I fish all the time. I don't keep a lot of fish at once, but I'm keeping enough to eat 2 meals of fish a week probably for our family.
Okay.
That's a lot of fish. So I really try and move and keep fish from different lakes and not from all from one place too. And I'm always keeping small fish. That's another thing. Don't keep the biggest fish in the system because those are the ones with trophy potential,
Uh-huh.
and there are very, very, very few of those top end fish in a lake. Whereas, your medium sized fish, there can be thousands and thousands of them. So
Yeah.
I try and
And they
keep it
tend to
to
be better to
those.
eat anyway.
They do, especially most bigger species like pike and walleyes. The smaller, younger fish are better, and they have less contaminants and mercury in them too. So yeah, I really encourage people to keep the smaller fish in the system if they can.
Yeah. Well, I love that because you do a lot of really good videos on cleaning all different species of fish, which is really cool because a lot of people haven't learned how to do that. Um,
Mhm.
and you do a good job of displaying that. When do you decide to are you going out to fish and you're like, "Oh, today's just a catch and release day," or are you kind of, "I'm gonna keep these, I'm gonna let these go?"
Um, Typically, it just depends on how much fish we've had that week and how much I have planned for meals. I mean, on a typical day, if I get a fish that's a good species that I like to eat and it's in the
Uh-huh.
size limit and it's not a big fish, it's like one of those eater size fish, I'll keep it, and then decide how much I need for that week. So I start out the week just keeping a couple here and there. And, if I know we're going to eat 2 meals of fish, that's a, couple walleyes, maybe half a dozen bluegills and a pike, and that's what I need for the week. So I mix it up a lot. I don't always keep one species either. We
Yeah.
eat everything. So, but sometimes I just like, what, this week I want a meal of catfish and I go target catfish just to eat catfish and I'll keep two,
Okay.
three smaller ones. And, it depends on my video schedule too. I mean, I have to plan all these videos out. And then sometimes I have like today we were filming a walleye wing video. I don't know if you've heard of walleye wings, but
No. Is that's like the around the neck portion?
it's like the pectoral fins,
Okay.
area, you know, there's some meat, there's pretty good chunk of meat there, and they are you can cut them right out and peel the skin off and cook them like chicken, like, you know, buffalo wings with buffalo
Oh,
sauce,
cool.
or you can fry them like shrimp with panko and deep fry them. And we just had them for lunch and filmed a video on it. So we had to go catch a couple walleyes today for that. And I'd been saving the wings from a bunch of other ones that I'd been catching, you know, to do
Yeah.
the video with. So a lot of it has to do for me with my video schedule too.
Yeah. That, I hope to get to the point where I can save enough walleye wings to make that because I've this is the lake that I live on is supposed to be a walleye lake, and I've only ever caught one, and a buddy of mine caught one the other day. I have another friend who does well through the ice, but otherwise, you know, it's mostly I'm doing really well on crappies. But that's
Mhm.
I guess that's another thing I could ask you about keeping fish. You said you should never keep the big ones, but is that debatable with crappies? Because some people say they have a shorter lifespan. Maybe it would be better to keep the bigger ones and leave those middle range fish. Is that does that cross over for you?
No, it's the same with panfish, same mentality. I mean, if you kill a bunch of 14-inch crappies, you're never going to have 16-inch crappies. Um,
That's true.
you know, for sure. Maybe they won't get any bigger than that. That's
Uh-huh.
possible, but they
Uh-huh.
for sure won't if you kill them. And if you have plenty of 11 inchers, you know, why not just keep those?
Sure.
Um, there is going to be more of the 11 inchers in the system at any given time than there is, you know, 14s. That's just
Yeah.
kind of the way it goes. The larger the fish get, the less of them there is typically in the
Yeah.
system. So I don't know. I don't keep crappies over 12 inches ever. I pretty much
Okay.
release 13s and 14s and end up. That's just my choice. And again, I don't think a 14-inch crappie is all that good to eat compared to an
Sure.
11-incher. So
Sure. Yeah, those are really good tips for people just kind of coming into this because it I mean, it's pretty cool to catch big panfish, right? The upper
oh yeah.
end of when you're catching 14, 15, 16-inch crappies or you're catching, the lake that I live on is full of big bluegills
Mhm,
and they're not very good. The big ones are not very good to eat because they're
mhm,
old. And
mhm.
that's I know the bluegills are very sensitive to that. Like you can make a small bluegill population real quick. I think it's really good information for people that are new to fishing to know, like, hey, don't keep the big ones.
Yep. Yep, especially in a small lake, it can have a big effect pretty fast. You know, in
Yeah,
bigger water, it's not as big a deal. I mean, certain places like Erie, for instance, there's so many big walleyes in Lake Erie. There's literally close to 10 million.
yeah,
That there's just no way fishing is going to have an effect on those fish. And good luck going out
right,
and catching a bunch of 16 inchers in Lake Erie. You're probably
right.
going to catch a bunch of 28 inchers is what you're going to catch.
Yeah,
So if you want to keep fish there, it's a whole different story than like your 300-acre lake
sure,
that's, you know, only has 1.5 fish per acre, if that, you know.
right.
It's very different up here in the Northwoods. A lot of our lakes have super low walleye density, which is probably the case with your lake,
Yeah,
is my guess as far as adult walleyes.
yeah. There's a couple lakes around here that do have walleyes, but PA. I mean, other than we have part of Lake Erie. Other than Lake Erie, there's not a lot of places you can go and know you're going to catch walleye. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
It's more of a bycatch, like an accidental one. Somebody catches one in this lake, you know, accidentally once in a while, or
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
kind of a thing.
there's definitely people that target them, but they are a finicky fish, so you're really taking a lot of time to learn those bodies of water, which is which is something else I think you're really good at too, because you are a pretty multi-species angler. Like, I mean, you've got videos of you catching snook, which I'm assuming was in Florida. Um,
Yep.
so you're never staying in one place either. You're talking about going to fish these. You just said it. You should go and fish different bodies of water when you're getting to a new body of water, what's your what's your main priority for breaking down that lake to do it quick?
Well, before I ever leave my house, I already know most of what I need to know about that lake because
Okay.
online scouting is super, super effective. Number one, you can use maps, lake maps to find your contours and your structure. Number two, you can use forums, especially on bigger bodies of water. You can look at forums and report pages, Facebook pages, to find out
Yeah.
what's going on in that lake. Um, Number three, you can use Google Earth to find weed beds from space, basically, especially if in clear water, you can see where weed beds and things are. Um, and then as far as checking the weather and everything ahead of time of year plays a huge part in where those fish are going to be at. Once I get to the lake, I'm immediately checking the temperature of the lake. So temperature, surface temperature plays a huge role in what stage the fish are going to be in, as far as especially in the spring when they're spawning and then transitioning out to deeper water. So before I really even wet a line, I've got a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and a lot of that's just experience and head knowledge of, just knowing where fish are going to be at certain times of year. But a lot of it's research too. And for instance, I was in Colorado last year. So
Okay.
we took a trip. My wife and I went out there basically for our anniversary. And any trip I go on, I'm bringing fishing rods and I'm fishing because I get up
Yeah.
at 5 a.m. She gets up at 8 a.m. I got nothing to do for 3 hours every morning. I'm going fishing. So uh, I'd never fished trout in Colorado. I'd never fished that area. I had no clue. But I did all my online research, reading forums and pages and figuring out what the runoff was like out there. I found contacts on my Instagram, just people I knew who lived out there. I had so much
Sure.
information. I literally went out there and I smashed the trout
Oh,
on a
that's
fly rod
awesome.
and spinning gear. I think I caught over 100 trout in like 3 mornings. So
Wow.
you can go out and have a pretty good idea what you're going to run into just by scouting ahead of time online.
Yeah. When you're breaking down these bodies of water, I know that when you're deer hunting, it's pretty easy to get stuck in a rut. Like, oh, I know I hunted here last year and it's a good spot, but there's no real good reason that it's a good spot this year. But you go there and hunt it anyway because you're hunting off of memory.
Mhm.
I know that occasionally I'll tend to do that with fishing because it's easy to throw a tube jig because I know tube jigs catch fish or a wacky rig with a Senko or something. It's easy to catch fish on that. But you immediately almost write off, like we've been talking about, you almost write off that there's no fish there because you haven't caught anything on the two easiest things that there is, you know. So how do you get out? How do you make sure you're getting staying out of that comfort zone? Like are you always trying a new bait, or you're looking at, maybe water temperature or conditions that you need to be fishing something faster or slower or whatever it happens to be, so you're not staying just stuck on memory?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would argue that fishing it's much easier to get stuck in a rut than hunting, actually.
Yeah.
Uh, Especially when you have fished for a long time. Like my brain remembers everything. Every
Mhm.
time, just about every fish I've caught, I remember. So I have a lot of memories to fish, and it can really screw you up. I mean,
Yeah.
it really can. And one thing I've learned is to just try to go to a lake with the perspective of, you know, yes, I can fish memories because sometimes they work, but
Mhm.
I have to limit myself on the time. So I basically am like, okay, I'm gonna try that one bay with that one bait for 15 minutes. If it doesn't pan out, then it's on to the next thing. I can't waste too much time on something if it's not happening. And I'll
Right.
switch lakes. I mean, I'll pack my boat up and leave the lake if I think it's not going to work and go to a different one. Now, not everybody
Yeah.
has that option, but you can go deeper, you can go shallower, you can go across the lake, whatever. With hunting, there is spots that just produce every single year over and
Sure.
over and over because they're a funnel, or there's just time of year that one patch of woods always had his big buck around or
Mhm.
moving through it or whatever. You can almost time it to the calendar sometimes.
Yeah.
Fishing is not like that, in my
Mhm.
opinion, most of the time. Like, you just, even when you think you got it figured out, it just, the fish will throw you off. Spawning times change. Uh, you think you got the temperature just all figured out, and you go to the lake, and it just happened to me last weekend. I went to a lake, temps are perfect, everything's perfect, timing's perfect, bluegills aren't spawning yet. I don't know why, but if
Yeah.
you keep looking for spawning bluegills and they're not there, you can spend a lot of time, looking and not catching. So I just moved to another lake, and they were spawning in that lake. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, there's a lot to say about that.
Well, yeah, and like you just said, you could I like the time restriction too because it's pretty easy to say I always catch fish here, and
Mhm.
you actually really only did maybe twice, but it was good those 2 times. You could spend 2 hours on that spot real quick because
Yep.
time on the water is it goes so fast.
Yep. And the other
And
thing is too, a lot of these small
yeah,
lakes, their biology is changing constantly. I mean,
mhm.
you will not fish the same lake 2 years in a row, especially on small bodies of water. They change
Yeah.
so much from year to year.
Yeah, they're just as sensitive as the fish. Can you talk about that maybe? Like, what do you think what are the changes that you see happen on small lakes like that?
Fishing pressure is one thing, people will, the bite will get out and people will go harvest 80% of the fish that were biting, and now they're gone. And that happens all the time, especially with walleyes and panfish,
Yeah.
especially ice fishing. Ice fishing is the worst for that. For whatever reason, it seems like ice anglers are just out to kill, and they
Yeah.
get all their buddies and they all have a party and they just hammer the school of fish that's already bunched up because it's wintertime. And the next year that they go back there and they're like, "Oh, this lake is no good this year. I don't know what happened." Well, you kept 5,000 bluegills out of there last year between you and your buddies, what do you expect
Mhm.
to happen? So that
Yeah.
happens quite often, especially on smaller lakes. And then you've got forage. Forage is a big one. So forage base changes, food sources diminish. Fish can't all survive on whatever food's left, or they don't grow as fast. Uh, that's a big factor too. And then there's some weather and spawning uh, timing issues. Some years there's just a poor year class and there's just not a lot of fish in a certain size range for, as that fish class moves up. So there's tons of factors, and there's fish diseases, there'll be a fish kill. Uh, Here we have so much ice and snow that there's partial winter kills a lot of years on some
Mhm.
lakes where the oxygen drops and kills off a bunch of fish. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that can change. And then some years they have booms, where there's just like a massive amount of a certain size fish in an area. This lake I was fishing, I was telling you about with the walleyes. 2 years ago, I fished that lake a ton and I caught one walleye, maybe two, the entire season.
Hmm.
And we've already put over 100 in the boat over there on that
Wow.
particular lake in the last week. And
Yeah,
they're
so way
everywhere.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not that there is more fish, sometimes it's that their habits change. So this lake has a big basin, big open wide basin. Those fish, if they're in that basin, especially before LiveScope, good luck. If that's where
Right.
they're at and they're feeding out deep, I mean, good luck having any kind of success catching numbers of fish because they're not
Right.
concentrated enough. But forage based changes, something changes in the ecosystem, and now those fish push up to a weed line out of that basin. There could be thousands of fish in that basin that are now in a super tight area. And
Mhm.
there may have been just as many fish 2 years ago, but they were just not concentrated at all. So
Yeah,
that's
that makes
another
sense.
big factor.
I always see, weed beds change based on whether there was a drought or how low or high the water was or how much sun there was at a certain time of year, like you said, and that makes a pretty big difference because if you were fishing a weed line that was hot last year and it's not there this year, it's not a hot spot anymore.
Right. And another thing that you have to take into consideration is oh, at least around here, I don't know how it is out there, but invasive species have changed lakes like
Oh yeah.
massively in this area. So there's three big ones here. Number one, zebra mussels, which
Mhm.
they do one thing when they get in a lake, they clear it up. So
Right.
there you can have a really dark, murky lake that's all of a sudden crystal clear in a few years because the zebs have filtered it all.
Yeah.
Number two is milfoil. So Eurasian milfoil. It's a super hardy, just matted growing weed that takes over every other weed in the area and chokes it out and basically
Yeah.
doesn't leave any room between stalks. So it just turns into a giant mat and the fish can't really use it. Uh,
Right.
it's a totally different kind of weed. And then third one is rusty crayfish. So rusties, they go through and they mow entire beds of cabbage. Like they pinch
Mm.
them right off at the base and they'll
Oh, okay.
completely just literally mow down acres and acres of cabbage. So there's some lakes that have had really nice weed beds in them that are gone because the rusties came in. And then the rusties come in, if you got smallmouth in that lake, they're gonna explode. They're gonna get huge because they have
Right.
so much food. And they love clear water and they love rock and sand. So all of a
Right.
sudden those weedy lakes are getting cleared up by the zebra mussels. The cabbage is gone. The crayfish have exploded. The walleyes and the bass suffer, or the largemouth suffer because the weeds are gone, and the smallmouth
Mhm.
blow up and they just explode. And then the whole process will reverse itself. The crayfish will eat themselves out of house and home. They'll start dying out. The smallmouth will start getting smaller and smaller, and pretty soon their numbers are down. The weeds are coming back. So lakes just still cycle like that. And you throw those invasive species in, it's pretty drastic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you it's cool you mentioned those species because I think the ones that are most popular to talk about are snakeheads and flatheads and the invasive fish species. But those I've heard of the rusty crayfish a couple of times because they're kind of in a couple lakes in my area,
Uh-huh.
but you don't really think about it like that. Because zebra mussels and I don't know. I think there is some Eurasian milfoil in New York lakes and stuff, but they had the problems with the gobies
Yep.
and zebra mussels where the lakes all are almost all of them are clear, and
Uh-huh.
the smallmouth, especially for like the St. Lawrence River, is the smallmouth in that fishery is booming.
Uh-huh.
But it's really cool to think about the ecosystem that way as it could just flip around.
You know, it's not always a bad thing. Like the gobies, for instance, in Lake Michigan, like everything eats them and they're
Yeah.
super prolific. So they're a food source that didn't exist before, especially in shallow water. So a
Uh-huh.
lot of fish species have moved shallower in Lake Michigan than they used to be. So they're a lot more accessible to shore anglers and they have tons of food near shore,
Yeah.
including brown trout and, smallmouth bass. And it's kind of cool to see how that's actually been a positive thing. And then, smelt in Lake Superior, those are invasive. They've been
Yeah.
there a long time now, but they came from saltwater. So smelt are actually originally a saltwater fish, and now there's just millions of them in Lake Superior, and they're feeding
Wow.
all the cohos and the lake trout and the brown trout and the walleyes, and everything eats them. So it's a give and take, it's definitely changes the ecosystem, but it's not always bad, or what I would consider bad.
Yeah, I think the invasive species are never a good thing to start. It's always a good idea to avoid, like doing the right things, like cleaning your boat off, quarantining if it's required, those kinds of things. It's always
Yep.
a good idea, but I guess after those things happen, finding a way to adapt to them is important. So,
Yeah, you just gotta make the most of it.
yeah. Yeah, especially paying attention to like your state agencies and that kind of thing. But once they're in, there's no use complaining about it because they're not going anywhere.
No, I mean, we've got white perch now in Lake Superior, which never were there. They're invasive, and I mean, I've started catching those big ones last year, and they're delicious, so I'm
Yeah.
not complaining about those either. They're there, I'm gonna utilize the resource and eat them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how much time do you spend fishing with artificial baits versus live bait? Because I know you and you have a good reason for it. Because walleye is a pretty big time live bait type of fish. But what's your preference there?
Well, I'll say this: the more I fish, the less I fish with live bait.
Yeah.
Um, the reason is I like fooling fish with something artificial. I can fish more efficiently. I can fish faster. I don't have the hassle of live bait, keeping it cool, keeping it alive.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll fish with live bait if it's working. And
Hmm.
I'm not going to beat my head against the wall trying to catch fish that I just don't seem to want to eat artificial baits. But um, I would say the last few years I've fished definitely more with artificial than I have with live bait by far. I would say probably 80% of the time I'm fishing artificial now. And most of the time, most places I can catch walleyes on a jig and a paddle tail. I
Okay.
mean, I'll catch them one way or another on that setup, whether it's a heavy jig head, light jig head, small, large, different colors. Like I can usually almost always find some kind of paddle tail jig head combination that will catch walleyes. It might not be as good as leeches on slip bobbers, but I'm gonna catch enough typically if they're biting it around
Yeah.
on but the other thing is, again, I'm making videos and a lot of people love fishing live bait for walleyes and it works really well. So this year I
Right.
did focus more on making more content that focused on live bait because of that reason primarily is because, people want to learn that stuff and there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. It's kind of a well, because a lot of people fish with I don't really fish with live bait almost at all. Unless it's like I really don't have a lot of good bait shops. I have one that's close to me and there's, night crawlers, mealworms, and minnows,
Mhm.
which you can do a lot of stuff, but I can't find leeches anywhere close to me.
Yeah, and they do come and go here too. I mean, the spring you can always get them, but you
Okay.
start getting into late July, mid July, late July, early August, they start disappearing, and by the end of August, they're pretty much you can't get them anywhere.
Okay.
They still work, but you just can't find them. And then
Yeah.
minnows, we've had minnow shortages at times where it's hard to get minnows, especially in the winter. Um,
Yeah.
so it happens.
Hard Yeah, if it's hard for me to get minnows at one place, the next closest place is, 30 minutes away, and that's, cutting into fishing time or whatever because 'cause you're keeping bait fresh or you gotta get it in between work or whatever. So, it is I I think finding something where you can have a staple, like, I'm assuming when you're talking, Pat, you're talking about a swim bait.
Hmm. Yep.
When you can have a staple like that where you can say, "Hey, this is a confidence lure. I'm gonna go out and I know I can probably make something happen with this." That's pretty important.
Yeah, in open water, I don't care what species it is. If it's crappies, if it's pike, if it's walleyes, if it's bass, I can catch just about anything on a paddle tail and a jig head if I get the right size and color and weight. If I had to pick one bait to fish with for the rest of my life all day long, that's what it would be. Because you can fish
Yeah.
it deep, you can fish it shallow, you can fish it fast, you can fish it slow. There's just, and it looks like a fish, and that's what fish eat is fish. So,
Yeah. Well, how are you deciding how to fish it? Are you just, oh, whatever the fish do? Are you spending, like we said, if you're going to an area for 15 minutes, are you doing the same thing? Are you taking every other cast? You're trying it slow, trying it fast? Are you just trying to pair conditions? What are you doing there?
well, I'll answer that question from the perspective of not having LiveScope because that changes
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, but before I LiveScope, I would definitely uh, sort of start by going with the old faithful, retrieve whatever I typically catch fish on at that time of year, which in the spring, it's a slow roll. And then once in a while, drop it to the bottom on a slack
Mhm.
line
Mhm.
or, and then pop it a couple times and then start slow rolling it again. That's kind of my go to retrieve. In the summertime, it's more snap jigging. So heavier jig head, smaller plastic, getting that thing moving really fast, slamming it into the bottom, just ripping it. Um, and then, if that doesn't work, then I'll just start rotating through some other retrieves. Start bigger hops or smaller hops, and I typically will stick with one retrieve and give it a shot for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's easier to keep track of things that way, and most likely you're contacting a fish sometime in that period. Now with LiveScope, I can see every fish I'm casting at pretty much, unless it's thick weeds, and I can judge their reaction in 2 casts and know if they're gonna hit that retrieve or not. And then I
Right.
just keep doing things until they start firing off. But one thing I've noticed with walleyes and bass is it's amazing how effective a super erratic fast retrieve works versus a
Yeah.
slow methodical retrieve. I mean, you can roll a swim bait past fish, especially now with the water's warmer, and they don't even look at it. But
Mhm.
if you get them to engage in it, and then you start ripping it away from them or swimming it up and away, I mean, it's amazing how much they'll chase it and how fast they'll chase it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole different perspective when you can see the fish. I mean, we've been catching walleyes in 32 feet of water out on the flats with live scope. See a fish, cast to it, and see the fish move up towards it, and then you just start reeling away from it. And a lot of times that walleye will hit 5 or 6 feet under the surface,
Wow. That's
which
pretty
we
incredible.
we never thought that that would happen before live scope. But you
Yeah.
would never fish that way because you wouldn't know that the fish was behind it.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's amazing to see.
that's a good way to catch pike when you're not catching them. Reel it faster.
Yeah. Oh, pike for
But
sure. Yeah. I mean, they
you
definitely
can
love to
never reel
chase
it fast
baits.
enough. Yeah,
No,
they are
no.
fast.
Yeah. There's a lot to it. Like I said, a lot of details. And I did a video this spring on paddle tails, like a whole half-hour video. It's 30 some minutes long on fishing
Yeah.
paddle tail swim baits for walleyes. And I go through like 5 different retrieves that I
Okay.
use. And exactly like you said, the details on how to retrieve it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I saw that one. I'm gonna have to check that out. Um, is there if there's something between fishing and hunting, what is the biggest parallel that you draw? Maybe the way the fish act versus the way a deer acts, or the way you approach scouting, or something like that.
Oh man, the biggest parallel. That's a tough one. Uh, there's so many parallels. I guess for me, it's just the challenge is the same for fishing and hunting. It's a problem solving game every
Mhm.
single time you go. It's
I like that.
you're putting a puzzle together
Yeah.
every single time. You will never hunt the same hunt twice. You'll never fish the same fish twice. Every single time you go, it is a new puzzle. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about it. It's just I love problem solving, and hunting and fishing both give you endless problems to solve. Endless.
Yeah.
It never
They
ends.
really
It
do.
never stops.
They really,
So
really do.
I love it. I mean, that's just how my brain works, and it's the perfect sport for me.
Yeah. All right. So you said that you remember everything. So I want to know what your favorite catch of the year so far was, and then I want to know what your favorite catch of all time was, if you can remember it.
I probably can. For so this year, I just caught my biggest walleye of the season a few days ago, and it's a lake I've been fishing that there's big fish in it. I can see them on live
Uh-huh.
scope. I've put everything I can think of in front of them. They come up and look at it and swim away. I mean, it's just been brutal. And I know they're big. I've caught a couple of decent ones, but the ones I'm seeing are bigger. I know they're walleyes because the way they're acting. And I finally I caught one of the bigger ones on a crawler. It was almost 27 inches. And
Wow.
I I had just been fishing leeches so much and they'd been working, but the water temps ticked up a little bit over 70 degrees. And a lot of times that's when they start switching to crawlers and biting crawlers. And I just dropped this one right over a fish on a slip bobber, and I didn't expect it to hit it because they've been so finicky. But I had a little wind, I had some clouds, it was a little nastier weather, and I think that just was enough. And that fish ate it, and I landed it, and I would say that's probably my favorite fish of the year so far, just because it was such a challenge, and I finally caught one of those stinking things that I've been seeing for so long. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like hunting, it's like with live scope. It is more like hunting because you're literally targeting a specific fish. But
Right.
and then of all time, there's so many that I could tell you about, but the one that always sticks in my head is the first time I really targeted lake trout through the ice on Lake
Okay.
Superior. And we got on a piece of ice that's only there every 5 years, maybe, safe to fish on. And
Wow.
there's always lake trout there if you can get there. It's really good fishing. It's about 60 feet deep, and it's just a big flat. So you're just jigging big tube jigs and big, paddle tails real aggressively, because lake trout are
Okay.
super aggressive in the winter. And
Mhm.
I was working my bait up through the water column, and I was using a Vexilar flasher, which a lot of you guys probably know what that is. And I'm about 5 feet under the ice with my bait in 60 feet of water, and I just see this vapor trail on my Vexilar just coming up like unbelievably fast, like around the dial, just and I twitched that thing one time, and I looked down the hole, and I saw that fish come rocketing straight up, perfectly vertical, and smoked that bait 2 feet under the ice, right under my hole,
Wow.
and it covered 60 feet of water in about 2 seconds. I mean, it was unreal. And then just
That's
wham, it was about a 10-pound lake trout, and
wow.
I mean, I'll never forget that. That was eye opening because, I mean, there's no other fish in cold water and that will move like that. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
trout are a whole different animal. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was up there.
That's pretty cool. Though, and those lakes, those Great Lakes are so beautiful. I'm sure you could how far down do you is there a lot of clarity when you're ice fishing those lakes like that? Could you see it strike that lure?
I mean, when I fish up the North Shore of Lake Superior, which doesn't happen
Mhm.
too often either, I could see the bottom in 50 feet of water.
Wow.
You know,
That's crazy.
it's crazy how clear it is. Um, in certain areas they get more runoff and stuff, and you can't see as far. But uh, and that's another crazy fish, another lake trout story up the North Shore. I was fishing 200 feet of water through the
Yeah.
ice and hooked a fish on the bottom and fought it 100 feet up, and it came off. And I mean, this is like you hook two fish a day, maybe if you're lucky. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh man. But I look back at my flasher, and there's a mark there still, and I start twitching my jig again. Things follows it, chases it down, and smokes it again after I had just fought it 100 feet up from the bottom, and I
Wow.
landed it. It was about a 15-pounder,
That's
and
crazy.
that just goes to show you how aggressive those fish are.
Yeah, they don't wanna miss a meal, I guess. I've been to a couple Great Lakes. I only ever fished on 2 of them. I did a little smallmouth on Ontario, and, we went to my wife and I went to Mackinac for our honeymoon.
Mhm.
So I did a little bit of, we trolled for trout there a little bit, and it is such a they're such cool fisheries. They really, really are. They're special.
Yes, yes, I love the Great Lakes. I mean, I fish Lake Superior every chance I get. If the weather's good and I have time. I'm only an hour from Lake Superior here, so
Oh, wow.
it's
Very cool.
pretty quick run to get up there and get out there. And the thing about like the Apostle Islands area and Bayfield, Shawamigan
Mhm.
Bay area that I fish a lot is that the diversity of fish species there is probably, I mean, I don't know of anywhere else on the planet where it's that diverse for freshwater species, cold water freshwater species. I mean,
That's very cool.
it's pretty crazy. Like you can catch warm water species like pike, bass, smallmouth, definitely walleyes, good walleye fishing. We've got crappies there. But then in the same hole, ice fishing, you could catch a king salmon, a coho salmon, a brown trout, a steelhead, a whitefish, a smelt, a splake, a lake trout, um, you know,
Yeah.
herring, cisco. There's like 20 different species, white perch, yellow
Yeah, that's
perch,
wild.
in the same place. like without moving.
Yeah. That's that's incredible. I think that should be everybody's goal for fishing because I love bass fishing, but then getting stuck on one species kind of sucks after a while.
I get bored chasing one thing for too long.
Well, it's not even just the boredom, but then you're what we've been talking about is you end up hunting and fishing on memory
Uh-huh.
because you're fishing the things that work. You're not trying a different technique. And there's something that you can learn from any kind of fish species you get. I'm sure it even translated for you fishing in Florida to fishing in Great Lakes, you know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, and all my freshwater experience translated to saltwater. I mean, saltwater is so much easier than freshwater.
It's different.
Everything is so aggressive there, and like
Yeah.
you throw a live shrimp in the water, something's gonna eat it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game. When you start getting into bigger fish, there's a lot of tackle things you got to know as far as rigging and making sure you're not going to break off on every fish. But I
Sure.
mean, it is a it is a wild place to fish, especially Florida, where you've got, such insane numbers and just
Right.
concentrations of fish. It's wild down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. I have not saltwater fished a lot. I have a buddy that just started getting me into it a couple years ago and, did the striper thing for a little bit, which is fantastic. And I went stingray bow fishing a couple weeks ago. And
Mm,
man, that is fun.
I
But I did
bet.
not know that I did not know there were that many stingrays on East Coast bays. You know what I mean? I mean,
Sure.
we weren't very far south, and it's crazy how many there are. I mean,
Yeah,
they're everywhere.
it's the ocean is the amount of fish it can support is pretty incredible compared to salt or
Uh-huh.
freshwater for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and we bow fish here too. We used to do that all the time. We would shoot carp and stuff at night. That was a lot of fun. I haven't done it for a
Yeah.
while, but
Gotta get out there with your kiddo, huh?
yeah, he's getting to the age where he's gonna want to try it. He's 12 now, so like he's getting to that point where he would have a. I mean, that would be like the highlight of his year, I'm sure, to go shoot carp with a bow. So
It's pretty fun, man. I actually never I always wanted to do it, and I've never like, "Oh, and I gotta buy more gear, and I don't have the right boat or whatever," but I have a buddy that has a boat that's rigged for bow fishing pretty you know,
Mhm.
he's got the stuff,
Yep.
and, he was like, "Well, we're going for stingrays. We gotta go if you never done this, we gotta go shoot some carp." 'Cause you don't know it's different. It's a different
Mhm.
kind of bow shooting,
Mhm.
because of the angle of light and, this kinda thing. I was
Yep.
horrible at shooting carp. I was we got to a local lake, and this it's a it's a, uh, it's a lake that is kind of barren underneath, or it used to be, because now there's grass in it. I don't know, some kind of grass got in there,
Mhm.
and there's just piles of carp around we fished for 2 or 3 hours, and I think we each shot over 100 times. He
Mhm.
ended up shooting, like, 26, and I shot 3. So
Well,
so
there's
it
a
takes a
learning curve
while.
to it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's instinct too. If you're used to aiming a bow,
Yeah.
you're not gonna do well trying to aim. It's all
Yeah.
instinct. You just
Yeah.
gotta draw and shoot, and
Yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it ended up crossing over the practice helped because I didn't do too bad on stingrays, so I was happy about that, but
That's good.
so, what are some things that you've got coming up?
Well, I recently went full time with YouTube here in April,
Oh,
so
great.
I've been a plumber for 20 years, and
Wow.
I recently went on my own about 2 years ago, and that was kind of to give myself a launch point to eventually, hopefully, do YouTube full time,
Yeah.
which it did. And fortunately, everything's working out so far. So I'm planning on doing this for a while, hopefully, full time.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So with that, I have a lot more time to put into it. So I'm trying to put out more content, but also better content, higher quality content. And I'm going to try and work a few new things in, new ideas, Um, probably, I already am planning on doing some fishing consulting actually, or basically
Oh, cool.
coaching. So
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people ask about, hey, can I go fishing with you? Or B, can I would you mind just talking to me about this lake that I fish and just going one on one and giving me some more information about how you would fish it. So that's in the
Oh,
works. I've already
very
got
cool.
everything set up for that. And I want to do a little bit more to give back to. At some point, I'd like to probably take some subscribers fishing, do some giveaways.
Oh, that's great.
That kind of thing is important too. And I'm not sure how I'm going to work that in exactly yet. I'm still kind of scrambling to try and just keep up right now and get in a groove of
Yeah.
creating content, because YouTube is awesome because every video you put out there is going to make you money once
Yeah.
it's up, but
Right.
they all drop off eventually. And to make enough to make a living, you got to keep creating content. I mean,
Sure.
it's not gonna let you rest. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. I mean, it is a lot of work to do it right.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure.
but I've got a lot of things coming up that I have planned for the channel. So yeah,
Cool.
I don't know if specifically one stands out, but it's going to be changing for sure.
Great. So you have, go ahead and why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find you at and your YouTube channel?
Yeah, the YouTube channel is called Hooked Up Wisconsin. It's just Hooked Up WI, all one word if you want to search it. And then same with my Instagram, same name. Facebook, it's Hooked Up WI LLC because I got my original Hooked Up Wisconsin page stolen.
Oh,
So
no.
now it's a Christian meme page and it has like 500,000 followers or some stupid thing.
Oh, man.
Until they turned it over and sold it, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, they robbed that one from me. So now it's Hooked Up WILLC on Facebook for that reason. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm also on TikTok, same thing, Hooked Up Wisconsin. Uh, don't do a ton there, but I'm posting there every week or so. Something. So
Yeah.
yep.
Cool. Very, very awesome. Dude, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation. I can't tell you how much I really do love your YouTube content. It's right up there with all the big players, man. And I've learned a lot from you. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. That's a big compliment coming from you. So thanks for having me on. It's always fun talking fishing and the outdoors. I
Absolutely,
could
man.
talk for a long time. So
Yeah, agreed. Stay in touch, okay?
okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Well, that's a wrap. Time to pack up camp. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. Get out, wet a line, have a good time with your family, have a fish fry. You know what? Bring some fish to your next family beach vacation, fry it up, show them why they should be doing it too. Make sure you check out Caleb on YouTube. Again, it's Hooked Up WI, and that's where you can find him on Instagram as well. Check us out at In Camp Podcast on Instagram. It's InCamp_podcast to see all the latest content that we have coming out. Where I'm doing some writing for Bo Martonic and hopefully for a couple other places here soon. So you can find some of that there. All those links are in my bio on Instagram. And I could link them into the show notes, I guess. But any content from Caleb will be found in the show notes as well. So go ahead and check that out. Like the show, subscribe to it, follow it, pass it around. That is so helpful. I really appreciate it. If you could leave me a review and leave me a rating, I'd really appreciate that too. And, go ahead and email me at incamppodcast@gmail.com if you have any ideas on things you'd like to hear. Remember, this is not a deer hunting podcast. This is a multi-species hunting, fishing, whatever you want to call it, podcast. That's what we really like here, although we do really love deer hunting and it is about that time of year. So there will be some of that content coming shortly. So keep coming back for more. I appreciate it. This is In Camp Podcast.